Erwire had always wanted to fly. In hindsight, that was the wrong thing to have said to the recruitment officer. A quick glance below only reinforced the burning sentiment of regret that coursed through the soldier's head. The thick, fiery hellscape below rippled in rising plumes of ash and soot. Ribbons of red-hot point defense cannons and short-ranged ultraviolet laser lightened the inferno in a crimson flare. Ash and clouds gave way to the crackling of orange-tinted lightning bolts, the rebounding noise recoiling across the densely packed interior of the open drop bay doors. In a way, Erwire appreciated the noise. Help him ignore the fact he could feel his legs dangle 20 kilometers off the ground. "Fuck this," he thoughtlessly muttered to himself. Feeling another distant shockwave ripple through the aircraft's massive fuselage. The sound of a dozen docked mechs jerking beside one another over the open hell below, doing little to relieve Erwire's tensed breathing. His helmet once again reminded him of his elevated heart rate. Erwire ignored the warning. 5 minutes to drop, the intercom crackled. Erwire also ignored it. Instead, he looked at the dangling walkers in front of him. One of the 12 armored war machines neatly arranged in rows of 2 by 6. Erwire took a moment to admire the skinny quadruped walker. Donned with utilitarian-looking rocket boosters and parachutes, along with a dozen or so soldiers strapped against the soon-to-be-falling war machine. In another life, Erwire would have pitied the poor bastards. Only the issue this time around was the fact that Erwire was one of those poor bastards. He patted against his rifle and rucksack, feeling the heavy load wobble against his chest straps as his back stayed securely maglocked to the walker's armored plating. The plan being for the walkers to fly like bricks, before hopefully slowing down fast enough to where the exteriorly embarked infantrymen weren't turned into fine paste upon landing. In training, the plan seemed fine enough. Not so much in practice. Not when you could watch in real time incoming missiles, lasers, or sea-whiz rounds nail you down at any given moment. The sight of a distant escorting decoy drone getting ripped apart by a missile below only added to Erwire's hastening heart rate. "Oh, fuck me," he sighed to himself. "Fuck this stupid shit." He could feel his nerves start to light up. His breathing grew more and more erratic. The same went for his thoughts. Is it really flying if you're just falling towards the ground? The soldier thought to himself. The image of the recruitment officer's slick smile is coming back to mind. He shook his helmet. His eyes locked on the hellish moor below. Should have just stuck to literally any other branch. It was with that thought that the dangling infantryman noticed a small black plastic water bottle tumbled to the abyss below. The section comms lit up in an instant. "Which one of you dumb motherfucking idiots forgot to strap in your water bottle, huh?" A certain section leader yelled into the comms. The man's voice on the razor-edged border between anger and laughter. An eager voice answered, "It was bouncy." Erwire found himself chuckling already. A quick look to his right revealed his short, stumpy friend, fiddling around with his webbing, as if doing so would return the now lost water bottle. "Wait, no, Sarge, I swear—" "God damn it, Bouncy," the section leader continued. "We did not come all this way just so you could pollute this peaceful paradise of a planet, did we? No, Sarge!" A distant explosion rippled through the sky. The resulting plume of fire and soot sent shockwaves across the cindered clouds below. The resulting turbulence that hit the aircraft only invigorated the sergeant's words. "Then tell me, Private, why did your army-issued water bottle just tumble out into the sky?" Because I'm an idiot, Sarge," the idiot correctly answered. "Damn right you are," the section leader continued. "And so help me God, if you do not find that army-issued water bottle, by the time we leave this fine planet, I will personally demark you for polluting this world with your perverse stupidity. Do you understand, Private?" "Yes, Sergeant." "Good," the section leader finished. I'm gonna take a fat shit now. The rest of you? I don't know. Don't fall off. Yes, Sarge! The whole section cried in unison, before quickly disconnecting off section comms. He found his rightward neighbour waving over to him. The thick hermetic visor that Urwire locked eyes with, having the phrase R&R forever, followed by the nickname Bouncy, both poorly written across the side of the very expensive helmet. In these trying times, could you spare a brother? Fuck off, Marcel, he sarcastically muttered aloud. Hearing the helmet boost his words loud enough for the idiot beside him to hear it. Oh, come on, the human moaned, with a light punch to Urwire's shoulder. You got like 4 water bottles on your webbing. Yeah, 'cause I need 4, dumbass. Marcel gave a sarcastic shake of his helmet. 4 arms, 4 fucking water bottles, eh? He spoke aloud. It wasn't even my fault I lost mine. It was fucking Moody's fault. Urwire had to keep in a chuckle from the childishness of it all, feeling his heart get a much-needed reprieve from the panicked inferno below. Oh, really? MB? Oh, don't get me started, glasses! A boosted voice yelled out from beside Marcel. A smaller hermetic helmet appeared to lean on their rucksack. The words "Moody Bitch" written in dark red lettering alongside the atmospheric piping of the helmet. Fucking Bouncy here thought it was a good idea to just hook one of his bottles on some cheap, shitty clip. Broke the moment a gust of wind came through. Yeah, and by gust of wind, Moody means that she fucking elbowed me, Marcel loudly rebutted, gesturing to the side of his heavy flak vest. Especially after I was trying to show her something cool. Urwire swore he was talking to 2 toddlers, yet sadly he was talking to 2 human adults instead. It was a sobering thought. And what cool thing were you trying to show, MB? Behind the exterior symmetrical pipes and the opti-digital visor of Marcel's helmet sat a massive grin. Said grinning idiot leaning sideways to show whatever thing he decided to place in his water bottle pouch instead of the water bottle he'd just so recently lost. That thing being a very big metal cylinder? The best speaker money can buy, Marcel said, patting the speaker as if it were his pride and joy. EMP hardened, 48-hour battery, foldable solar panel attachment, and loaded with all the best hits. Yeah, from fucking Dark Ages, Moody added on. Marcel gave a big shake of his head. It's a shame not everyone can be as enlightened as me, because if you were, then you'd know that old-fashioned rock and roll was the fucking best. No question. God, you're such an idiot, Moody muttered aloud. The strapped woman looking as if she was trying to fall into the vast open expanse below them with how she was leaning. Should have just brought a box of sweets or some shit. I myself got a whole box worth of cookies stuffed across my rig. For a moment, Urwire found himself in awe of the 2 morons before him. The humans were more pressed about what goodies they brought alongside them, rather than the active war zone below them. A war zone they were about to drop into. It was actually pretty damn impressive, all things considered. Maybe I should take a page from them. Irwin momentarily pondered, his helmet congratulating him for reducing his breathing and heart rate to within official army guidelines. Did I really calm down from just listening to these idiots bicker? He immediately ditched the thought as he saw Marcel actively fiddle with the speaker over the open abyss below. Urwire silently betting on Moody to elbow the metal brick into the abyss. Yet the woman didn't act on the impulsive thought, much to Urwire's surprise. So, what did you load in it? He asked along, wondering how long until another small tragedy happened to the go-lucky human. Marcel struggling to press the small analog buttons built into the speaker with his comparatively large flak gloves. The man stopped his fiddling, instead turning to Urwire with a hidden smile. Only the finest hits and classics, the man proudly knocked. 1 minute to drop, the digital announcer said. Urwire felt his heart tense, yet he smiled. What's on the menu? Well, let me list off the delicacies, Marcel said in a joyous tone. I got heavy, soft, pop, electro, and some good old classics from the beginning of the best damn music genre of music there ever was. God fucking shoot me, Moody muttered, as she softly bashed her helmet against the walker's metal surface. Moody, you wouldn't even know good music if it shot you in the head. Fuck you, the woman muttered along. Wanna be rockstar looking ass? Nah, Marcel retorted, spreading his arms in a boastful gesture. Glasses here can testify to my bona fide musical genius. Laz been witness to every one of my divine musical melodies. Shit. Even forked out money to see some of my band's gigs, before everything went to shit, of course. My sincerest condolences, Glasses, Moody somberly said. Did he threaten your family at gunpoint or something? What? Condolences? His neighbour laughed out loud. Nah. When all of this is over, my four-armed friend here is going to be the best goddamn rock player in the whole damn galaxy. I mean, you can already string my guitar pretty good. Learn the bass and you can fucking dual-wield guitars. A bona fide one-man rock army, eh? Guitar? Bass? Glasses, don't you dare stomp that fucking low. Moody chuckled along. Now drums? People love fucking drums. Sexy-ass instrument. Yeah. Good way to go broke trying to buy a damn set. You're a fucking guitarist, Moody yelled out loud. A dime a dozen for you lot. Tell me, you ever break even after a gig, or have you always been such a broke-ass fuck? Eat shit. The fuselage bay erupted in the whines of electric motors and hydraulic pistons. Technicians running across the aircraft's interior scaffolding to do the final last-minute checks on each of the walkers. 30 seconds till drop, the intercom said. HFY had been reminded of the very present hell that they all now dangled from. Oh shit, Marcel nervously chuckled with a long stare downwards. That is one hell of a drop. Moody gave a strong shake of her head. Yeah, no, fuck this shit. A moment later, the nervous chuckle had erupted into a hearty laugh amongst the three dangling soldiers. Their laughter keeping their dread out of earshot. Yet as they dangled on the precipice between heaven and hell, an idea struck him. Hey, Marcel, care to lay down a beat? HFY yelled out. A gleeful cry of joy was his answer. Thought you'd never fucking ask, Marcel cried out, the man giving a few strong punches to the speaker before locking it safely in his webbing. And with it, the surge of electric guitar erupted across the bay, saddled on by the rhythmic beats of drums and the background ambience of the bass. It was safe to say that their walker had just become the focal point of attention. A quarter dozen helmets now eyeing the source of the music, and with it the horrid air guitar Marcel was miming along. God, just fucking shoot me, Moody said with a nervous pat of her strapped rifle. The music exploded into the main verse. A loud, coarse verse of some forgotten rock star, ringing off their helmets. What even is this shit? Music straight from old Earth, Marcel replied with a roar. A series of cheers and applause cascading across the open bay as the beat hit its crescendo. Even some of the dangling walkers wagged their remote 50 cal machine guns and optical cameras. The drop bay fuselage effectively transformed into an airborne concert hall. Earth? Moody laughed out loud, finally nodding along to the music. Fuck off. Why can't we have our own music? Marcel gave a roaring smile. What better music is there? And so, the music played onwards. 100 different idiots are jiving to a song that must have been older than anyone on board. The aircraft and walker crews even cheering along in comms, a few even somehow singing word for word the lyrics. The rest of the infantrymen following along. Moments away from falling right into the blazing maw of hell. It was stupid, yes, yet they were soldiers after all, and what were soldiers without humour in horror? 10 seconds, prepare for drop. The klaxons began to whine. Red LED lights strobing across the bay as the hydraulic gears above began to hiss and whisper. A sudden jolt hitting the entire walker, as the entire bay began to inch ever so closer to the open hell below. The section comms lit up one last time. "I can't tell if you lot are the bravest or dumbest squaddies I've ever had the displeasure of serving with." The sergeant chuckled with a static accent. "Rock and roll never dies, huh?" "No such," Marcel yelled out in comms. "Rock and roll forever, baby." "Private, don't you dare speak to me until you recover that damn water bottle of yours." They all gave one last chuckle. The glow of drone decoys and flares already spraying out across the bottom of the aircraft's fuselage. The aircraft crew and drop technicians overlooking the dangling walkers radioed in the green light. The inferno below beckoning them to drop. "We got this," Irwire nervously said, more to himself than anything else. Without a sound, the clamps of the first two walkers went off, the hulks of metal quickly becoming nothing more than mere grey specks as they descended under the ashen clouds. He shook his head. "We got this." To his surprise, he felt a firm, armoured pat against his right shoulder. A calm, terrified smile met him as he turned to look. The next pair of walkers dropped. Marcel just gave a frightened chuckle, the speaker still roaring out his guitar and drum riffs. "Just a bit of rock and roll, ain't it?" The order rang across their comms. "Drop! Drop! Drop!" That terrified smile was the last thing Irwire saw as they tumbled into hell. It was a cold day's afternoon when Mr. Hahn heard the store door chime ring. "That you, Alex?" the old man called out. He already recognized the kid's footsteps, yet his eyes remained focused on the broken bass guitar before him. "Yes, Mr. Hahn," the teenager casually replied, already walking towards the row of guitars that the kid was all too familiar with. "How was school?" Alex gave a half-hearted shrug. The usual," he answered, dropping off his backpack next to an old leather-cushioned chair that Hahn kept around as a decorative keepsake. Hahn went to grab another pair of tweezers near his work counter, casting a low, deadpan glare at Alex. "Here to dirty my wares again?" The brown-haired boy looked over at the shopkeeper, giving a calm, jovial nod. "Yes, Mr. Hahn." A while back, Hahn would have nagged the kid a bit more, yet now he looked onwards in content. Alex clicked on fast, knew the old man's style and mannerisms, knew that he didn't smile that much, and most importantly knew that he couldn't say no to the bright green eyes that always stood in awe over his humble shop. Over him, the musical shopkeeper. It was something the old man appreciated, the sign of real respect, not superficial dressing. Alex spent a minute doing his usual routine, the kid ogling the various showpiece acoustic and electric guitars that hung studded to visible brick and steel, instruments that Alex wouldn't be able to afford for a good amount of time. Didn't stop the boy from dreaming, though. And when he was finished, the jack-wearing team would walk over to the old shopkeeper. Hahn already knew what the kid was going to say, yet Alex seemed to catch interest at the broken beauty he was working on. "What you got there?" "A broken bass," the old man answered. The shopkeeper's eyes remained locked on the 6-stringed bass, carefully tuning up the tuning pegs as he watched a newly replaced string slowly stiffen upwards. "Want to play with it when I'm done?" Hahn bluntly jested. Alex gave a big swing of his head. "I'm not ever touching bass again." The kid half-heartedly chuckled, and for good reason. The bass the kid had broken a while back likely cost Alex a good portion of his allowance, even with Hahn's financial leniency with the strings. He finished tuning up the newly replaced string. Hahn could already see the young boy about to mouth the question, but the shopkeeper got to him first. "Want a guitar to play with?" "I think you know the one, mister," Alex said with a glint in his eyes. "Dime a dozen, you lot," the old man dryly chuckled, taking a step back from his open work counter and walking over to his backroom collection of not-so-glamorous and far too glamorous instruments. "Would you be mad if I gave you a cheap one? "Oh, come on, Mr. Han," Alex complained. "I need some practice with something good." The man gave a faint smile to the brown-haired boy. "Don't you get enough practice at school?" Alex shrugged, content to keep his hands hidden under his blue jacket. "Yeah, but the stuff there is cheap. Plasticky. Even my music teacher says so." The old man shook his head. "What a snub of a teacher you have, then." His eyes glancing upon an old, vetted acoustic guitar. Something of good professional quality, while sturdy enough to endure a bit of beginner's abuse. He grabbed the instrument, walking back to his polished wooden counter as he laid out the guitar with a hint of reverence. "This work for you?" The smile that sparkled from the kid's green eyes was all Han needed to see. He ceremoniously handed the guitar to Alex, the kid always taking a moment to gaze across the instrumental beauty before him, respecting it, before graciously grabbing both ends of the guitar with a sparkling smile in his eyes. "Thanks, Mr. Han." The shopkeeper handed over a guitar pick before gesturing over to the cushioned chair. "Remember, you break it, you pay. Got it?" "Yes, Mr. Han." The youngster dryly chuckled, taking a seat on the old keepsake chair before carefully ordering his fingers across the guitar. Then he started stringing along. Nothing too complex or fancy, just a rhythmic ballad of well-practiced chords and well-executed technique. Whiffs of talent alongside a plethora of amateur habits flowing outwards from the musical ambience. Eventually, Alex was all but lost to the world. The kid's green eyes far too enthralled by the silent dance of the guitar strings to notice the silent approving nod the old man gave. It reminded him of a kid he used to know. A good kid. Han found himself cracking a genuine smile, tapping his fingers to the melody, the aged professional being reminded why he opened the store all those years ago. Memories trailing back to the first time he'd ever watched his older sister strum along a bass guitar in their band's first amateur performance. She'd have liked this place, Han reminiscently thought, smiling. He let the thought take him back to the work at hand, the work of a broken bass guitar. A few final finishing touches now being all that separated Han from a day's work finished. It came as a surprise to the old shopkeeper when a new chime rang out from the front door. Heavy weighted steps cascading through the polished wooden tiles of the shop. This time Mr. Han did look up, finding himself in awe and confusion. Entering from the front door stood a large hulking four-armed alien, donned with a thick grey trench coat and an oddly out-of-place set of glasses. The imposing figure having a guitar-shaped carry bag strapped behind his back. A bag that oddly reminded Han of a brand he used to sell in his store. "Can I help you, sir?" Han called out to the puzzled-looking alien, trying his best to keep his surprise and confusion hidden beneath his professional self. "Yes, actually," the alien replied with a lock of his glasses, and what the old man could only guess was a smile. The large fanged face walking towards the shopkeeper as he carefully took off his guitar bag. "I'd like to get a service done for this guitar." "Oh?" Han let out, quickly returning back to his professional self. "All right, let's see what you got." Alex kept strumming along. The musical melody was still organized and curated, yet the kid's eyes were no longer lost to the world. Instead, they curiously glanced at the alien, watching with curated interest as the trench-coated figure sat the fabric guitar bag down. Then the boy's green eyes suddenly lit up, clearly recognizing something that Han didn't. To the boy's credit, the bag did look suspiciously worn out, far more than what one would usually see. Yet that was nothing compared to the guitar that hid beneath. The instrument the four-armed alien brought out looked almost foreign to the aged shopkeeper. It clearly wasn't an antique, yet it clearly had a lot of experience under its belt. Various engravings and markings dotted the furnished mahogany body, silhouettes of past burns and embedded soot marking various parts of the instrument, followed by a litany of scrapes, bruises, and general wear and tear that littered the foreign guitar's body. Yet what surprised Han the most was the exceptional care with which the instrument showed. The body had been polished and sanded an innumerable number of times. The core organs of the guitar showed signs of deep love and care, from the neck to the bridge of the guitar. Yet despite the functionality and cleanliness of it all, it was clear that the instrument had seen better days. "Poor beaten thing," Han muttered to himself. Moving away the bass guitar off his counter, and cradling the now beaten beauty before him, the alien offered no resistance. The shopkeeper took a more thorough inspection of the guitar, finding various pieces of metals, cymbals, and attachments dotting the underbelly of the guitar. He pointed to a small fragment of scorched metal that seemed to have rooted itself near the guitar's saddle. "What's this piece of metal?" "Shrapnel." "Shrapnel?" Han confusingly repeated, taking another look at the guitar. He shook his head. "Are you part of some death metal band? You know, the fire and explosion kind?" The alien froze for a moment before a chuckle gushed from their fanged mouth. "You could say that," the four-armed figure said. "Plenty of fire and explosions, though would never consider myself a part of a proper band." "Is that so?" the old man curiously replied. He put down the guitar on the large open counter. "Ain't getting that metal off, though otherwise it looks half decent. I can give it a good tune-up alongside a refurbishment of the body, though could give it a full makeover if you want." "A makeover?" the alien muttered aloud. He shook his head. "No. A tune-up and refurbishment should be all, thanks." Han nodded along, turning over to his nearby tablet to get a rough estimate of the would-be time, cost, and effort he'd have to put into the job. Yet as his eyes turned from the guitar to the tablet and back, something clicked in his head. An old, familiar feeling. An old, familiar feeling. Nostalgia. That of an old memory. An old friend. The old man stopped, taking a step back to gaze over the guitar, thinking back to what it must have first looked like when it was fresh out of store. The brand, the smell, the feel. "Is there a problem?" the alien asked. Han stayed silent, too focused on resolving the small little fit of nostalgia that kept on lighting through his head. He positioned the guitar on its side, looking over for an engraving that only one of his customers would ever be so brazenly stupid to do. Resale value or potential damages be damned. And as his fingers surveyed the warm body, navigating the burns and bruises the instrument had suffered across the years, he found it. A little engraving that only one person would ever write. A wannabe rock star. A kid. A friend. One that Han hadn't seen in over a decade. R&R forever, it read. "Say," the old shopkeeper muttered aloud, slowly turning his head to the hulking alien standing in front of his counter. "Did this guitar have a previous owner?" "It did, yes." Han rhythmically tapped his fingers against the counter. "Does the name Marcel ring a bell?" "More than a bell," the giant replied. He passed his eyes from Alex to the alien, and then back to the guitar, thinking. The kid that Han had known all the years back had been one of perseverance. Not necessarily a man of talent or humility, yet he made up for it with passion and dedication. The things that truly made a musician. The old man couldn't fathom that kid trading away his guitar. Not on his life. The mere thought alone rending a drop of sweat falling down the old man's forehead. "Why'd you have his guitar?" The alien stood still. Silent. The ethereal eyes that hid behind the vintage set of glasses were locked to the ground. His arms hidden behind the thick, grey trench coat. The figure's mouth was about to speak, yet the voice that Han heard wasn't that of the alien before him, but rather that of Alex. "Hey, big guy?" Alex said aloud. The young boy stopped strumming along his guitar, instead cradling it, as his green eyes glittered against the mute facade of the hulking alien. "Those markings." He pointed to the various insignia and markings on the battered guitars, features that were all but foreign to even the ace shopkeeper. Alex twiddled his thumbs, nervous, as if the kid recognized the meaning of the stylings. "Were you?" "Yeah," the alien finished. His eyes were still locked to the floor. So was Marcel. Han looked over to the young boy, silently gesturing with his eyes, asking what had the boy so stiffed. The kid replied with a silent tilt of his head, before then pointing to his wrist. The old man didn't follow, yet he still took Alex's advice. It was when he glanced back at the alien, at the small slivers of visible muscle skin on their wrist, did Han understand what Alex meant. Old scars and cindered burns met the old man's eyes, the severity of which Han had never personally witnessed in his life. For he's no rock star, no matter how metal or hardcore, would ever willingly inflict such horrors upon themselves. Han could only think of one profession where one could walk out with such grievous wounds. "Oh God," Han muttered to himself. Another drop of sweat riveted down his forehead. The shrapnel lining the guitar made all too much sense now. Han's mouth was agape. He looked at the alien. "Is he?" "Yeah," the scarred figure silently said. "I'm sorry." The shopkeeper bit his tongue. The alien's glassed eyes remained locked to the floor, and Alex just silently watched. A thick stillness unfolded across the store. The silence spoke more than any of them could ever say. The old man finally shook through the emotions in his throat, glancing at the somber giant. "You were with him in the end, yeah?" The alien nodded, finally locking eyes with Han. "Yeah." There was a small bout of silence before the old man finally collected himself. "Thank you," he said, with a glitter in his eyes. It was all the shopkeeper had to say. Han looked over to his tablet, looking at the would-be cost and charges. He cancelled the order. "On the house," Han said, giving a light shake of his head. "Marcel was always broke anyway." The alien let out a healthy chuckle, giving a soft nod of his head. The figure reaching down into one of his coat pockets before pulling out a shrapnel-ridden-looking speaker. "Mind holding on to this?" the soft giant asked, holding the veteran speaker to Han. "Marcel's. Loaded it with all his favourites, old-timer stuff. Even got a few of his band's songs onto it." The muscle figure somberly looked down. "It got us through some hard times." "Rock and roll?" A small sparkle lit behind the alien's glasses. "His favourite," he said with a smile. Han found a smile cracking through his solemn eyes. "Kid was always an old soul," he said with a laugh. "God knows where he picked up such tastes." It was probably the old shopkeeper's fault, yet he would never admit to that. "Can you play?" It was a meek question spoken by Alex that caught the two adults' attention. Both turned around to look at the guitar-wielding kid. The said kid seeming a bit nervous, pensively gesturing over to his old guitar and then to the scarred giant. "I mean, you got 4 arms. Thought that, you know." The trench-coated alien gave a humorous smile, a light shrug lining his shoulders. "Used to." The figure gestured to his 4 arms. Arms that donned the same familiar scars and burns that Alex had keenly picked up on. "Hands shake too much nowadays." "Oh, I'm sorry for—" "It's fine, kid," the figure replied with a half-hearted chuckle. "I'd be a better drummer anyway." Alex gave out a light laugh, yet the kid was clearly still on edge, something that the soft giant seemed to recognize. The trenched figure crouched down to Alex's height, giving a slight push of his glasses. "Name's Erwire. Yours?" the veteran gestured. "Alex." Erwire nodded along. "Can you play, Alex?" the alien calmly asked. "Me?" The brown-haired boy stuttered aloud. looking at his guitar, then back to Urwire. Well, a bit. Still learning, though. I got time, Urwire casually replied, standing back up as he gestured over to the old worn guitar on the counter. Alex looked over to Han, the old man giving a firm nod of his head as he began clearing his counter for the tools he'd be using. Let's hear it, kid. And so, Alex strummed together what few songs he knew off heart, Han fiddling and tapping along to the tunes as he silently worked on the old, battered memory before him. He'd be lying if a few tears didn't end up falling on the guitar. Didn't matter. It was good for the polish anyway. Alex's music kept on rolling for a couple of minutes, the kid swapping over to strumming the strings with his bare fingers. The boy's notes were full of small errors and mistakes, things that professionals noticed, yet the kid's beats had heart. Alex's green eyes glittering along as he did his damn best on the guitar, not letting small fumbles and mistakes dampen his music. One day, Han would let him try an electric, but for now, he was content watching the kid grow bit by bit. It reminded him of the old days, of younger skies, of the last kid. A couple more tears fell onto the now glistening guitar. Urwire gave a little applause as Alex finally rolled out his final notes, a nostalgic grin lighting the alien's face. That was pretty damn good, he said. It's clear that you've been practicing a lot. Good on you. Thanks, Alex replied with a nervous smile, the kid giving a quick shake of his beaten fingers. The youngster glanced over to the old shopkeeper, to the old battered guitar. What are you going to do with it? Alex asked with a look at the counter. Urwire gave a heavy sigh. Me and a couple of mutual friends were thinking about burning it, he answered. One final send-off to our wannabe rock star. Though, I'm not so sure about that anymore. What? Alex thought out loud. Why? Marcel was a lot of things. The alien spoke with a reminiscing smile. Prideful, arrogant, and a bit of an idiot. He was also thoughtful. Wouldn't want to see his beloved instrument go out in a fiery whimper. Yet he wouldn't want to see it in some collector's treasury or have another wannabe rock star dirty his beloved. Urwire took a momentary pause. The alien stroked his chin in thought. He looked at Alex. How'd you like it, kid? What? Even Han found himself stunned by the surprise question. Yet the old man couldn't find himself objecting to the notion. I mean, I doubt you could afford anything in this store. Urwire chuckled, gesturing out to all the very expensive instruments that hung across the store. Seems fitting that I donated off to Marcel's favourite little store. To a fellow loyal patron at that. Han felt a cool sense of relief pass through his body. He still remembered. Plus, you got some talent and dedication, the trenchcoat figure added. Kinda reminds me what Marcel must have been like as a kid. But The blue jacket kid tried to cry out. I can't take something like this. All these engravings, it's... History, Urwire finished. He gestured to himself. His coat, his arms, his scars. Most people won't ever know what any of those markings mean. Hopefully they won't ever have to learn. But what if... Alex kept on shaking his head, his face still locked in shock and surprise. If they do recognize those marks, Urwire answered, giving a light shrug of his shoulders. Then tell him the 101st MRB lives on. The bouncy sends his regards. The boy went silent, his eyes locked to the floor. This isn't right, Alex muttered, standing up to look up at Urwire. You should have this. You knew him. I'm just some random kid. Me? The alien gestured to himself, giving a smiling shake of his head. I'm no rock star. Never was. And I am? Urwire looked over at the young teen. I know a future rock star when I see one, he said, with a shaded grin. Can tell you listen to rock by the way you string that guitar. Alex's eyes peaked in a duet of shock and surprise. How did you know? It's pretty simple, kid, the soft giant replied. Rock never dies. But take it, Alex, Han interrupted. He looked over at the boy, giving Alex a firm nod. I knew that kid when he was around your age. Took him 4 years of scrounging together money until he finally managed to afford his first guitar. This guitar. The old man leaned across the counter, his eyes locking with the young boy's green stars. Thing's got a soul. Needs proper care and attention. Needs a proper musician. He took a step back, memories of days past echoing in his ears. Take it. Alex looked at Han, then to Erwire, then finally at the old, battered guitar. Okay. The four-armed alien came back to the counter, pointing to the guitar. May I? Han gave a nod, watching as Erwire ceremoniously planted the guitar in Alex's hands. Go on, kid, the alien said with a rueful smile. Rock and roll. And so, Alex started to strum along. At first, the kid's nervousness was palpable, with shaking fingers and hesitant breath. Yet as the notes began to flow out, and the ambience filled the store, so did Alex's music improve. And while Han couldn't say for sure, the old man couldn't help but think the kid had improved. Maybe it was just nostalgia, reverence for what came before. Yet Han liked to think of it as hope for what could come after. Whatever the case was, the scarred veteran seemed content, watching on as the kid entered a musical trance. Notes flowed outwards as Han quietly nodded in approval. The growing grin on Alex's face reminded the old shopkeeper of a rock star he used to know. Rock on, kid, Erwire quietly said, a mournful yet thankful cadence bleeding from the giant's words. The alien slowly made his way out of the store, giving a wave to the old shopkeeper. Han could almost swear he saw a tear or two drop down from the alien's muscled frame, a sorrowful glint hiding itself under the veteran's pearly glasses. It was just as the chime of the store door rang out again did Alex finally realize what had transpired. Wait! Alex called out, watching as the alien ready to close the door behind him. Thank you, sir. I just smiled. No problem, kid. And so the alien left. The last thing Han saw was the trench-coated figure walking out, with a hardened woman following him out. The sounds of distant tears whispering out as the door slowly came to a close. It was enough to have the old man finally crack. The first drops of the flood of tears Han had kept dammed up slowly began to rain. Mr. Han! Alex quickly called out. It's fine, the old man said, the tears still pouring out. Say, let's hear it again. For a moment, the blue-jacket boy hesitated. Yet as Alex saw Han's reminiscent smile, the kid's green eyes lit like emerald stars. Giving the old shopkeeper a nod as he looked at the living memory, he wielded. Say. A generous smile lined Alex's face, his eyes gleaming over to the battered speaker on Han's counter. The boy's hands excitedly lined alongside the guitar strings. Want to play a track? Han just gave a somber nod of his head. What you thinking? He croaked out, tears already pouring down his face. Alex looked at his new battered guitar, then to the old man. How about some rock and roll? With that, Han gave a calm, teary nod. A warm, reminiscent smile lit across his face. Thought you'd never ask.